Hi guys, welcome to my next video. It's about bar charts. So in this one I'll walk you through everything you need to know to do a bar chart Task 1 academic. In this case I'm using some data from one of the Cambridge books again, so you might have seen this one before. I'll try and give you a simple approach that you can use for these. As always, I'll try to write four paragraphs, so an introduction, an overview, a body 1 and a body 2. And now remember, in our introduction all we're doing is paraphrasing the first sentence that they give us in the question. So if we look at this one here, they said the chart below shows the total number of minutes, in billions, of telephone calls in the UK divided into 3 categories from 95 to 2002. Now I can also borrow from the data a little bit in my introduction. If I wanted to, I could explain what the 3 categories are. It's up to you if you want to do that or not. They started with the chart below shows. Remember, we don't need to say below, so we can say the chart. Now I will say the bar chart because that's what it is, but you can just say chart as well. So the chart below shows the total number. I would use the chart illustrates, or the bar chart illustrates, the chart gives information about, or if they use one of those, I will use the chart shows. Okay, remember, just use one that is different from the one that they used. And when they say from 95 to 2002, I will say between 1999 and 2002. If they say from X to Y, I will say between X and Y. If they say between X and Y, I will say from X to Y. So there are 2 really easy ways to paraphrase those parts of the question. For the other parts, you'll just have to use your own English skills. Let's go to what I've said in my full introduction. I said the chart illustrates the amount of time people spent on local, national and international fixed line and mobile calls in billions of minutes in the UK between 1995 and 2002. By the way, it's normal to put the time at the end. That's standard. I think everything else is pretty straightforward. Notice I said what the actual categories were. I didn't say 3 categories, I actually explained the categories this time. So remember, you can do that. You can borrow from the actual data in your introduction. Just don't borrow specific numbers. That's not the point of the introduction. Next, I do my overview. Now, my overview comes here. You can do your overview, as we said before, in a conclusion. I recommend it straight after the introduction and in a separate paragraph, just in case you run out of time. That's one reason. In a separate paragraph so it's easier to find for the examiner. That's another reason. And I think it also helps me just organize my thoughts to have it first. So that's another reason why I usually do an overview rather than a conclusion. The overview, what are we looking for in the overview? We're looking for main features. We should be able to find at least 2. If we find more, that's great, we add them as well. I'll give you guys a minute to have a look at the data and see what are some main features that you guys can find. If you need more time, that's fine, pause the video, keep looking, but we'll move on now and let's look at what I saw. Firstly, in this bar chart, we see that the top one, local fixed line, that's the most common throughout. Okay, it starts at 70, goes up to near 90, back down to about 70 again. That was the highest the whole time, so that is definitely a main feature. I have to mention that. If I don't mention that, I'll get I'll lose some points for task achievement for sure. Another thing you have to notice is that for mobile calls, what happened? While they went up, national and international fixed line, they also went up as well. So that's definitely a main feature, that those two went up. Now, I think what is also another main feature, in my personal opinion, is that mobile calls went up pretty steeply. They were really taking off at the end. That's arguable, but that's what I can see. If you wanted to get super fancy, they're all sort of converging. Like local fixed line might end up below the others, but I'm not going to worry about that. For me, that's a bit too confusing. So for me, the big features are local fixed line are the most common. The other ones go up, particularly mobile. That's really going up. They're the main features that I've found. Let's go to my overview. I said, overall, while local fixed line calls were the most common, local, the top one, both national and international fixed line and mobile calls showed an increasing trend over the period, with mobile calls showing the most significant increases later in the period. As you can see, top one, both increasing, particularly mobile phone calls. That's my overview. If there are more things there, great, you can put them in. That's what I saw personally. Next, we have our body one. So we have to decide what we want to talk about first. Now, to me, the most obvious way to do this is to put mobile and national international fixed line together, because they both go up. So I'll put those both in one paragraph, and I'll do the other paragraph as the local fixed line. So let's start with local fixed line. In 1995, beginning, local fixed line calls account for just over 70 billion minutes. So remember, we give the opening figure, just like with line graphs. Okay, very, very similar to line graphs. This figure was approximately double that of national and international fixed line call minutes, and far above mobile call minutes, 3 billion. What I'm doing here is I'm starting with all three numbers. I'm doing each category, local, national and mobile, giving you the figure for each. But from this point, I'm going to only talk about local fixed line, because that's really the topic of my paragraph. Over the next 5 years, 95 to 99, the amount of time spent on local calls grew and peaked at a figure of 90 billion minutes in 1999. So remember what we always do. We give the beginning, we say what happens in the middle, and we give the end point. So what happens in the middle? It grew. It peaked, and then from this point, fell away. Time on local calls began to decline and ultimately fell to its starting figure at slightly over 70 billion minutes in 2002. Really simple. Beginning figure, I gave them all actually. Top one went up, then it went down, closing figure. Now, body two, of course, what am I going to do? I'm going to give the other ones. Okay, the national and mobile. In contrast, both mobile and national and international fixed line calls grew over the entire period. Of course, so that's what happened in the middle. So remember, I've already given the opening number in the previous paragraph. So now I start with what happened in the middle. Mobile call minutes in particular began to increase significantly around the year 2000. Remember, I already gave the opening figure. I already said they both went up. Now I'm focusing on mobile from the year 2000. While at the same time, national and international call minutes continued to slowly but steadily increase. So everything's going up, particularly mobile. By the end of the period, there was a more equal spread of call minutes, with local, national and international and mobile calls accounting for around 75, 65 and 45 billion call minutes respectively. as I was saying a bit earlier in the video, they're sort of converging. So that's what I'm saying here. There was a more equal spread by the end of call minutes with the 3 numbers. So again, I gave the opening figure in the first body paragraph. I could have done it slightly differently. I could have done the opening figure in the second body paragraph. I just didn't this time for whatever reason. So opening figure, what happens, finishing figure. Do that for all of them and put them in relation to each other. So as you saw here in my body 1, I used comparative language. So in body 1 I mentioned double that of national and international fixed line call minutes. So I'm saying it was double, that's comparing. Body 2, I used the expression in contrast. Any other comparative language here? Mobile call minutes in particular, specifically, in other words, compared to the others. So that's comparative language. The expression at the same time, so both of them, okay? I'm talking about 2 together. I'm not talking about the data separately. By the end, there was a more equal spread, putting them all together. So again, I'm giving the beginning, what happens in the middle and the end, but I'm also putting the data in relationship to the data around it. Is there any key vocabulary for this? Not much. It's pretty obvious stuff. But for example, if you have 89,000, for example, you can use words like approximately 90,000, around 90,000. Approximately and around are quite useful in these sorts of things. You can use them in other Task 1 academics as well. Expressions like just above, just below, slightly above, slightly below. These are also useful expressions that I use all the time. And of course you might need to use the word fluctuate as well. So pretty straightforward, that's bar charts. There will be variations depending on the particular image that you're given, but this is usually how they are. These usually multiple years, and usually you're comparing years. So I think this is a pretty good example of what you're likely to get from a bar chart. So the next video will do processes. They're a little bit different, but I think you'll find them interesting. So I'll see you there in the next video.